that felt good, and never have I had that kind of feeling where people were just like, "Hey, you can do this. You're gonna make a difference,"
Yeah.
and those type of things inspired me to give more and more effort to the point of I became an honor student, and like, man, I was never an honor student. Looking back, that experience taught me is like when you give 100% of your attention to something, you're gonna get positive results, and I was seeing positive results, and these achievements were addicting. I wanted more. I wanted more. But also, what it was doing, it was transforming my mindset and also teaching me how to use my brain to become a critical thinker. That right there is what college is about. Welcome back to Always Level Up the podcast. I'm your host, Carlos Garcia, and this is my co host, Tracy Garcia.
Hello.
Welcome. So go ahead, Tracy. Lead us.
Today we want to talk a little bit about why education is crucial, I guess, for personal growth and career success, right? There's kind of, I just feel like it's not as, it just seems not as valued in, I
Yeah.
say today's generation, it makes me feel so old.
Well, I think it's not even today's generation. It's been for generations, and a lot of it has just stemmed from, the perception of education, and then college debt, and then people getting degrees and then not using the degrees, and
Yeah,
you
what the
know,
economy looks like when you graduate. I know that was an issue when
yeah,
I graduated with my bachelor's degree. It was
exactly,
like we were in a recession and like
yeah,
who's hiring, right? Like just find a job. And I actually was grateful, lucky
hmm,
to I graduated with my degree in communications and I was able to find a job in communications. So
right,
and that wasn't common. That
yeah.
wasn't common in 2008.
Right, and I think a lot of that has come from. I mean, there's a various amount of reasons why people don't find the value in the education, and I think there's a lack of ownership in terms of like people choosing a degree plan that they're going to use, right, or just for whatever reason it is, because when it comes down to it, there's education does provide some opportunity, right, and for me, education has made a big impact on my life, and I'm so pro education because of the contribution it's made to my own transformation, personal transformation,
Yeah.
and personal growth. And we'll talk about that because I think that's it's important to shed light on, you know, what it can do for you, and if you use it for the right things, right,
Mm-hmm.
and if you go for the right with the right intention, right, and when we were, when we had our first son, and and you were, going back to college after he was born, it was like it was inspiring to me. I was like, all right, that's cool. Like, I was like, you're gonna do well. I had this confidence that you were the kind of person that would succeed in college, and but me not so much. I was still one of those boys from the hood, doing hood things and making bad decisions, and maybe around a rough crowd. And I myself was rough as can be, and but I wanted change because I knew the path I was on was a dead end path, and it wasn't going to lead to anything prosperous. It was, I mean, any, anyone I knew that was on that path that I was on either went to jail or died.
Yeah.
Something was just the outcomes were never positive,
Right.
or got addicted to drugs, and so I knew there had to be a better way, and I found that way through education, and you led me in that direction, which I'm always grateful for because that was the beginning of a transformation, right? So
Yeah, and for me it was, higher education, especially, knowing that I was going to go to college after high school. It was just,
right,
in my family, it wasn't really an option. Like that was just the next thing to do, right? Um, it was, and I went in thinking that I was prepared, but in actuality, it was a very big jump. It was a very big transition. I mean, I was a great student. I
hmm,
knew how to study. I knew how to apply myself. I think the challenging part was just the maturation process of becoming like a woman, wanting to like, experience life on your own. Like I couldn't wait to move out of the house, and then I started working, and then, and then I just had more responsibilities. I had,
Right.
bills to pay and I wanted to move out of my parents' house, and that was kind of like my motivation. So, getting sidetracked a little bit by those things, like wanting to grow up too fast as 18. And so
Yeah.
I think even with my kids, I'm like, okay, now struggle through it and be a kid as much as you could, because I wanted to work and I wanted to do all these things. But in hindsight, that was really what threw me off track, right? And so I did become a mom sooner than I thought. So I kind of left college, started working, got pregnant, and I said, you know what, I should probably go back to college. And so I did, and that was, that's when we both decided that's what we were going to do together. I remember us both going and, filling out our financial aid. We went to
Right.
like Cafe College. I don't know, does Cafe College even still exist out there? There's something out there
It
like
probably
that.
is. It's probably something like it.
Yeah, but it was such a helpful resource for us, like trying to figure it out and figure out how we're going to pay for it. So we went to community college, which was another blessing. Community college, we had class together, and
Yeah.
then I only needed to take a couple classes to get me prepared to re-enter at the university at UTSA, where I originally dropped out from.
Yeah.
And then as a mom, going back as a mom, it's a little bit different. Your priorities shift and change. And I was one of I was an excellent student my second time around, and I was one of those non-traditional students that really messed up the curve for some of the traditional students, and just was on top of my shit.
Right,
I was
yeah.
really focused and was really doing what I needed to do. But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it was a choice, right?
Yeah.
Going
Absolutely.
to school, going to college, getting that education, especially 18, 19 years old, where your parents no longer really have total control over your choices. It's a choice for yourself, and
Yeah.
it was the right choice for me. And I think
Yeah.
it was the right choice for us.
Yeah, absolutely. And along that path, and for me, it was just one of those things like I'm gonna try it. I wasn't fully developed mentally in terms of understanding like, hey, we don't try, we do, right? And it's like, look, I'm gonna try this and let me see how it goes, right? And I remember having that conversation with you, and it's like, look, if I do well, if I pass my first class, and I'm gonna go all in. If I don't, then you know what, I'll hang it up and to the streets I go, right? So, but that was like, to me, that first experience of college was, I mean, I did my remedial courses, got through that, and then my first college course, I went through it, and I just remember just getting outside of my comfort zone, and those were like the experiences that had a big impact on me because, one, I don't like to feel defeated, and then two, I don't like to feel embarrassed, and college will humble you when
When you're unprepared.
when you're unprepared. And and I remember in that first course, I had to do a presentation, and I winged it, and I remember doing a presentation, and I remember my teammates putting the PowerPoint together, and when my turn came up, and I was just reading the slides word for word. I was sweating. I was stuttering. I was so embarrassed. And, it was humbling because, I mean, I still spoke a little, ghetto in slang, and so I'm sure I can only imagine how I sounded back then.
Good thing there was social media wasn't too popular back then. I think we had Facebook, and you had to have like a college edu
Right.
email address to be on there.
But yeah, that experience, once I got through that presentation, I remember my professor coming up to me, and he told me, he's like, Carlos, you're probably not going to get the grade that you think you're going to get in this class, and but I want to encourage you, like, to keep going, and it'll get better. I mean, he gave me some encouraging words. I was like, all right, man, this guy's about to let me down. He's about to tell me I failed. And I was like, well, what's my grade? What am I going to get? And he's like, man, you're going to get a C. And I was like, oh, man, thank you.
Thank you, Jesus.
I was like, thank you, man.
Excuse me, I have a really special place in my heart for community college professors. A lot of them are like adjuncts, so they have full-time jobs, and they do this on the side. And the amount of care that they have for the students to succeed is just like unmatched.
Right.
And I used to work in a community college setting in administration at a local community college, and the staff there, the faculty were just amazing. They wanted the students to succeed. A lot of them are the non-traditional students that are kind of
Right.
counted out or whatnot, but yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
shout out to the community
Oh
college.
man, and that was a blessing for me because, like, this guy had my future in his hands, and he didn't really know, because based off what we talked about and my decision
Yeah,
from
it was a
there,
pass or fail thing, right?
yeah, and it led me in that direction of going all in. I was like, all right, I'm all in, and when I went all in, and you know, you were encouraging me like, hey, join all these students, join as many student organizations as you can, be part of anything and everything that you be part of. We want to pad your resume. We want to make that thing look good, your college resume, and it's exactly what I did. Joined the Student Leadership Institute. I mean, any other organization. I joined business organizations and stuff like that, and those things started to have a positive impact. And then one thing after another, more and more people were just kind of encouraging along the way and just kind of betting on me to win, and that felt good.
Yeah.
And never have I had that kind of feeling where people were just like, "Hey, you can do this. You're gonna be somebody. You're gonna make a difference." And
Yeah.
those type of things inspired me to give more and more effort to the point of I became an honor student. And like, man, I was never an honor student, but with that, looking back, that experience taught me is like when you give 100% of your attention to something, you're gonna get positive results, and I was seeing positive results, and these achievements were addicting. I wanted more. I wanted more. But also, what it was doing, it was transforming my mindset, and also teaching me how to use my brain to become a critical thinker. And that right there is what college is about.
Yeah.
It's about learning how to think, find the answers, find solutions, solve problems. And I wouldn't have got that if I wouldn't have went to college. And
Yeah.
instead I would have been the opposite, making excuses, being the victim. And this is why I do find so much value in the institutions, because it
Yeah,
gives
and I
you
mean,
the environment to thrive.
totally, totally. And, even with the brokerage, we do prioritize excellence. We do prioritize those things. And although when we're looking at, potential hires or potential new agents to bring on, we do look to see if there is an education background, because we know we are hoping that those types of things, the critical thinking, the the
Accountability.
minimizing excuses, accountability,
Right.
exactly the word I was looking for, is more likely to be already kind of ingrained in that person, because they've probably gone through some sort of humbling situation that
Right.
the college environment puts you in. And so, I think for me, the biggest thing with you making that transition into college was the new community that you
Right.
were surrounded
Right.
with, right? You had access to new friends, new acquaintances, whatever it was, and there was no room left in your life for the bad apples, I guess, the people who
Right.
were,
Or even for me to be that apple, right?
Right.
And that's just a kind of self-reflection. And during that time, I mean, you remember when it wasn't just, hey, I went to college and everything just turned perfect, right? There was still some more struggle. So another experience that we had during that transition, about a year into college, is me picking up another felony. Whoopsies. Being a felon in possession of a firearm, and that it's a federal offense, and it comes with a minimum of a 3-year prison sentence. And man, like that experience in itself, and I'm sure you remember what we went through, and just the impact it had, and it wasn't like I was just running around with a gun, being reckless. It was a circumstance thing that just didn't work in my favor. But at the end of the day, when it came down to sentencing, and going through the whole process of going to court and everything, after the prosecutor did her investigation on me, she recognized that I was fully committed to college. And she was like, hey, my attorney talked to her, and we all got together. We sat down, and she's like, hey, look, I know you're doing it. I've never seen anybody do it like this before, and I don't want to throw you back into prison.
Yeah, I
And
remember her. I thought I remembered her name, but it's slipping me right now.
I think it was Christine. I forgot, but anyways, I just remember her telling me that I want you to keep going, and I don't want to put you back in an environment that you're working hard to come out of. And that's why she offered me a 5-year probation sentence instead of a 3-year prison sentence, because she's like, if you go back there, I know I'm sending you back a lot. And man, to God's grace right there, like, man.
I remember that conversation vividly. She did. There was this, and you could tell she had that a spirit of grace in her with that conversation she had with you, and she was very empathetic with your situation. Right. And had you not been doing all those things, had you not been fully immersed in the college environment, doing the things and going to class and like full college, not just a part-time student, like all in,
right,
super involved, it could have gone a total different way.
Well, and the thing is that what I learned is that if it would have been a front, it would all unfolded, and she was like, nah, you're just putting up a front. And then we know what direction that would have went. But because it wasn't, and because there was a full commitment, that's why it opened the door to that third chance. Third chance. And to me, it was eye-opening. It's like, okay, like, you're on the right path. Keep going. And make sure you continue down doing the right things, because you're running out of chances. And life will give you a lot of chances, but at some point, if you stay hard-headed, like, it'll knock you down and knock you out. And it does that to some people. But thankfully, I just kept going and continued on the path of, getting good grades, and ended up graduating with honors out of UTSA, got my degree in real estate finance and development, and then went on and got my master's degree. I was just so addicted to education. I'm addicted to learning, but I also knew my addictive personality is like, man, this is such a good thing. And I was really intentional with, picking the business degree, picking something in real estate, because I knew that there was going to be something there. I didn't know exactly what it was, but I knew there was going to be something there for me in the future, and that helped, and it helped us, get to a better place. And then also, you were leading the way, and you graduated before me, so I'm just following your footsteps.
I had a little bit of a head start, but I think we both ended up exactly where we wanted to be, and actually beyond, because I thought my education path was going to lead me to a career inside of corporate or some sort of business where I could work my way up, and other life happens and other circumstances happen where I chose to spend more time and grow my family, and I had to step away from a career that I had really longed for and wanted to build up. So I always joke that I say I got my master's degree and I became a stay-at-home mom, because that's kind of the order it happened in.
You were a master of the home, which is very important.
I was. I still am, and I'm still trying to master it. But
yeah, you are.
I was able to get my master's degree from my dream school, USC, and I think it just, like I said, it worked out, and all the things that I was able to learn in that master's program, I used it. Even though I was at home, I still use it. I did consulting, and now I'm even using it even more now that I'm working in the brokerage, and so it just feels like God always knows what He's doing.
That's
even
right.
when I didn't understand it, I didn't really know what was happening, and but here we are.
Yeah, that's right. Well, and taking it, just to continue down this journey, in education, and being able to see, all right, what are we going to do with ourselves, right? And say, okay, what's the question? The question is, how do we make something out of ourselves after graduation, right? And I'm not the kind of person that likes to make excuses. I don't like to say, well, I went to school and I got all this debt and nobody wants to hire me because I'm a felon and I'm a 2-time felon. Nobody wants to give me an opportunity, because I knew that would just be BS. And, I remember post-graduation, and looking for a job, and we talked about it. And it's like, man, hey, just get a job somewhere. And I was like, all right, well, I'm a college grad. Who's going to hire me? Well, nobody was hiring me. And, I was like, man, well, what do I do? And just like apply anywhere, everywhere. And I remember, my brother's ex-wife, she ended up hiring me at Radio Shack.
Are we dating ourselves again? Who remembers Radio Shack?
They're out of business, but she gave me an opportunity.
Yeah.
And it was different this time. Like, I knew that, okay, I'm coming out of college. And I was like, man, I just got to show that I have work ethic. Don't be that guy that's going to make excuses. Get a job, humble yourself. Thank you for not, giving me a hard time for not making a lot of money out the gate. But, I think I was getting paid like $8, maybe $10 an hour, plus some sales commission on some cell phones. But I was like, man, this is a test of work ethic, right? This is are you going to continue to work? And when I go there, right, I looked at that job as a stepping stone. I'm like, this is a stepping stone. You're going to get here, you're going to work, you're going to keep looking for another opportunity. And I did that for about a year until I actually found my first opportunity in real estate. And when that happened, I remember, interviewing with the broker, and my guy Nate, shout out Nate, and we sat down, and he interviewed me, and I told him about my past, and I told him about college, and he's like, man, well, everybody makes mistakes, and the company, the position they were hired for was real estate sales, and he's like, man, well, just get your real estate license, and hey, I'll give you a shot.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, all right, that sounds great, but hey, what if I don't get my real estate license because I'm a felon and they don't want to give it to me? He's like, well, I said, can I still work here? He's like, yeah, probably not. I was like, but hey, but you know what? I'll let you sit around and be a sponge and learn. So that's the least I can do for you. And I really appreciated that because, again,
too.
it was another opportunity and somebody just having faith in me. And if somebody's gonna believe in me, then I have faith in God, and it's giving me the opportunity. So went after it, got my real estate license, and I got approved. And it was funny because when I got my real estate license, they gave me a 1-year probationary period. And my guy, he's like, hey, you're on probation, but hey, you're no stranger to that, right?
You know exactly what to do.
He's like, just stay out of trouble. I was like, you're right, I'm already on one.
So, that part should be easy.
Yeah, so that, it to me, it was just the power of faith and just knowing that if you do the right things, you don't make excuses, the doors will open. And when they open, it's going to take work. It's going to take effort. You're going to struggle. It's not going to be perfect. You're not just going to get the fat checks right away.
Yeah.
You got to go pay your dues. You got to go, earn your stripes. And, if you do things the right way and you constantly work without excuses, well, then eventually the resistance will give and the rewards and the opportunities, they follow. And that's what happened to me. And that's like, man, so, all that work paid off. And again, it goes back to not allowing any excuses to be in my mind and using every reason to just keep pushing forward, because I think about all the people that believed in me, all the people that betted on me, all the people that rooted for me along the way.
Are you able to pinpoint that pivotal moment? I think I kind of heard it in your story, but is there that moment where you feel that the education just made that critical difference?
Yeah, man, there was a bunch of moments that happened, right? But I mean, it was in that courtroom. That was the first place that it really was like, boom, like this is it right here.
Mm-hmm.
Keep going. There was another pivotal moment I haven't talked about yet, but it was when I was still on probation and still had some bad behaviors trying to get right. But I ended up, I was on probation and get drug tests. I ended up getting a dirty drug test, and that man, my PO was on me, and I remember she was like, Carlos, what are you doing? You're not a drug addict. You're really, risking something. You're risking all this hard work that you've been putting in for that. Like, you're better than that. I mean, it was like a mom talking to me, and I'm like, man, I felt so bad, and I'm like, you're right. I'm sorry. I was like, don't lock me up. and I can't make you any promises. maybe you'll get the monitor. I don't know. I'm gonna have to talk to my superiors. And I'm like, man, I was like, all right, well, whatever it is, I'll take the consequences because, that's the thing is like, you make bad decisions, there's consequences.
Yeah, it's a choice.
And
There's a choice.
there's choices, and I didn't make any excuses. Thankfully, I got 90 days on the monitor, and this is what really did it for me because during that time I was on the monitor, they gave me a window to go to school and to go home. And that window was from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And I had a job on campus, and I had classes on campus. So I spent my entire days
all day, y'all.
All
and
day
let me tell you,
on campus, every day.
Let me tell you, even before the monitor situation, I'm like, apply for all the things, do all the things, sign up for everything you can at school. Like, you have no business in the streets, you have no business doing anything else but building your mind up, right?
That's
and so you did. You got the campus job, and I would tell you, like, the tutoring. Go to the tutoring lab. It's free.
Yeah.
Go sit in there and do whatever you have to do. Like,
oh, man.
I was just like, don't come home. Don't come home unless you don't need to be home. Be at the school because you're gonna just stay out of trouble, right? You're gonna stay out of trouble at school. So,
well, and part of that is changing habits. And there were still some habits that I had that I had to work on, and because of that instance and that situation, it forced the habit change. It forced the habit replacement.
Yeah.
And again, the people that are rooting for me, my boss that gave me the job, she gave me a job as a peer. I'm a peer educator, and I'm supposed to be promoting responsible behavior on drug and alcohol use and sex behavior and all that. And like, man, I'm not being a good example. So I'm like, I need to get it together.
Yeah.
And thankfully, I was like, this is it. Like, you really have no more chances, because I already know if I do it again, they're gonna lock me back up.
Yeah.
And that's really where I was like, all day, every day, getting after it, spending times in the tutoring lab, spending times in the library, working. I remember, I got some rec time where I could go to the gym. I'd be out there playing basketball with my monitor on my ankle. Like, this guy got some monitor on his ankle at UTSA. I kind of laughed at it, but it was definitely not, the ideal situation.
Yeah.
You don't want to be that guy, I'm going to tell you.
So, we talked a little bit about why education matters, and one of the key points there, and you mentioned already, was critical thinking. I think you mentioned problem solving as well. I think those are two major things there. But also the discipline, right? The discipline. I know you talk about discipline a lot, self-discipline a lot.
Yeah.
How do you feel that formal education kind of builds those foundational things in discipline, critical thinking, and problem solving?
Yeah, well, whenever you have, if you're attending any type of college, getting a degree or whatever, there's always a syllabus, and in the syllabus it's going to tell you exactly what you need to do. So your professor's not going to, hey, check on you, did you do your work? They're going to be like, here it is, turn it in when the due dates are. You turn it in, great. If you don't, hey, it's on you.
Yeah, you paid.
And you paid for this, and this is on you. So I learned to read the syllabus, and then I learned to start prioritizing my time and saying, okay, how much time is it going to take for me to actually do this? Because you see these things, it's like 3, 4, 5 things, and you're like, oh, this seems pretty easy. But there's a lot of research that goes into it. And when you have to do the research, then you have to go find the answers, and then you have to go and, write the paper. And then when you write the paper, you got to go and cite your sources, and then,
And then you add the group work into there, and then having to work with other people that you don't know. Other people who might have different schedules and other, challenges and excuses than you do. So there's that whole component, which is actually a valuable skill as well, because you're never going to get away from working in groups or teams,
man.
right?
And the thing with that is that not everybody's going to take things as serious as you are. I was taking things very serious because, like, hey, this is my last chance right here. I need to make sure I get it together, and I have no time for failure. I got to win. I got to go and succeed. Like, so if you're not trying to put your best foot forward, and we're on the same team, like, it's probably, we're probably gonna have a butt head sometimes. And but I was never gonna let the lack of someone else's effort be something that prevented me from doing what I had to do and my contribution, or even finalizing a project or whatever it is, And I remember one time, like, there was like three of our teammates dropped the class, and then it was me and this other person that we had to finish the class together and our project together. So we had to take on the whole thing, and I was like, I'm not dropping it. I was like, we're gonna do this, and we did end up passing that class, but.
There's just so many lessons. There's so many lessons, like valuable lessons that translate from, and I tell my kids the same thing all the time. It's not just about what you learn in the classroom. That's maybe 30% of it. The knowledge and the skills, like, that's not what it's about. It's really about a lot of this social development. Again, the critical thinking. How am I going to, get out of this issue, this problem? How am I going to now show up for myself when the rest of my team has already dropped out? What do I do? Right, that adversity that you meet, and it just teaches you in a safe setting of how to overcome those things.
Right. But it goes back to just the discipline of being able to follow a structure and being able to turn things in on time, being on time to your classes, taking notes while you're in your classes, like all these little things.
Showing up when you don't feel like showing up.
Yeah, and there's no excuses. Like, man, I never would miss class. I'm like, no, I got to be in class. I need to make sure I take notes. I need to make sure I'm paying attention. And then on top of that, I mean, if we wanted to add public speaking as another skill, because you have to give presentations, like, man, that right there, remember the first presentation I was like, man,
never feeling that.
I don't ever want to feel that again. And that's the feeling of being unprepared. So I was like, and I realized, like, if I'm just prepared and I know what I'm talking about, I'll do fine.
Yeah.
So, man, I just spent more time preparing, and I would always deliver better messages. And that also helped me when I was a peer educator, because we did nothing but presentations. So that also helped me get that skill, down tight. So I have no fear of public speaking anymore. At one point it does, but they say that's the fear of most people is public speaking.
It's huge.
So.
Yeah. I know you'd like, can you help me with this paper? And I'm like, what do you mean by help? Because I can help you, but I'm not going to do it for you.
Yeah.
I got my own homework to do.
Shout out to you for not doing my homework for me. I definitely tried to get you to do some homework for me. Who doesn't? Which guy doesn't, right? But you didn't, and that right there was, a blessing, because I understood that, it's not helping me grow. It's it's just it's helping you more than anything. But then at the same time, ethically, you're not doing the right thing, you're doing someone else's work. So. I think that's something too, is having certain values when it comes to preparing, doing your work, making sure it's your work, not trying to copy, not cheating, not cutting corners. Like, no, do the best that you can and deliver the best product that you can, the best, whatever it is that you have to turn in. And if you do that, then that's where the skills happen, and that's where the skills become developed. And a lot of times people want to avoid that stuff. It's the hard stuff people want to avoid, because it's challenging, and it takes time, and there's this desire for these other freedoms, like having a good time and socializing. Like, no, man, like all that, do that later.
Yeah. Do it when you have something to celebrate, right?
Exactly.
But yeah, all those things that you just said, that translate perfectly into a career, real life setting, right? Being prepared, knowing what you're talking about, researching these things before you go and present something to an investor or whatnot, right? Like, the humbling experience that you had in college of being unprepared, it still sits in the back of your mind. So it's like, I don't want to do that. If I'm going to meet with an investor, this is a high dollar conversation that I'm going to have. I'm going to have all my shit together. I'm going to have all my ducks in a row, so that I look like I know what I'm talking about, because I do know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, exactly.
And then so education, a formal education is one thing, but this idea that you often talk about of just like being a lifelong learner and just continuous learning, whether formal or informal. You want to speak on that a little bit?
Yeah, because, I know, and it's true what they say, college isn't for everybody, right? But I think if you're looking to make a complete 180 in your life and you need an organized, structured environment, it might be for you. But if you have the discipline to teach yourself new things and continue your education, then you have to learn how to find answers. And if you know how to do that, man, the internet has all the information
Everything.
available. But people typically don't utilize it because they don't have the discipline or the habit of learning. And learning takes effort. And then not just to learn the information and okay, now I got it and not apply it. Like that's useless, right? You need to go and you have to go and seek the things that you need, right? So
Mm-hmm.
how do you do that? What do you do, right? It comes from self reflection and self awareness of what are my weaknesses, or what is it that I'm looking to accomplish, and how am I going to go get that skill? So if you're in sales, then hey, get a sales book. Hey, do some research on sales. Who are the top salespeople in what industry right now? You go down that path and you learn.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's going to put you on another pathway to success, right?
Yeah.
And then also the personal growth. And this is a whole nother thing of education where you're starting to learn who you are, mastering your own personal
Yeah, the
weaknesses.
stuff they don't really teach you in the classes, but you still learn on the journey.
Right, right. And that right there to me is probably the most valuable thing. I think I've had a personal growth journey through my college experience. I didn't know I was really going through it, but
Mm-hmm.
once post college came, I was done and I got into my real estate career. And then I started seeing success and I started having freedoms. And, you know, I wasn't giving the personal side attention. So there was some regression
Mm-hmm.
happening there. And I wasn't really, aware of what was happening until I started seeing like the pain points and the signs like, hey, you're going in the wrong direction.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Whether again it's like spending too much time socializing, doing the wrong things, spending time with the wrong people, drinking too much alcohol, stuff like that, and it's like those things are not going to help you grow.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the byproducts of that was like becoming overweight and blood pressure rising. I'm like, man, I'm 30. Why is my blood pressure high? Well, like, man, you're eating out all the time and you're drinking alcohol all the time and
Yeah.
you're not healthy.
Yeah, you're at the gym but barely
I'm
exercising.
over there. I'm over there at the gym, socializing for 2 hours, and shooting some hoops, and then doing some buys and tries, and looking the same. It's like, man, what's going on here? And the older you get, the harder it is to get back in shape. So, I had to make some serious changes and start to really recognize like what is what is true self discipline,
Mm-hmm.
and self discipline beyond just mental discipline, which is like learning and reading. It's more like, hey, physical exercise and making sure that you understand your body and know how to keep your body fit. And why is that important to the longevity of your life? And how does that connect with the cognitive? And how does that relate to your performance in the office
Mm-hmm.
and whatever it is that you're doing? And even in life in general, like,
Yeah.
I remember at a point, coming home and I'm tired and I don't want to, I'm like, oh, I've been working all day, and
Mm-hmm.
oh, the kids need this, and we need to cook, we need to clean, whatever. I'm like, I don't want to do that,
Yeah.
and laziness starting to settle in. Like, no, you gotta have endurance. So you get home, you got more work to do. There's a whole nother job waiting for you,
Yeah.
and it takes
Totally.
discipline to go execute that.
Yeah, and there's this it just sounds like what we're saying here is there's this risk of complacency,
Mm-hmm.
right? There's this risk of complacency when we aren't educating ourselves, whether it be formal or informal, and we're not looking for that next thing, for that next level for ourselves.
Right.
And you say it all the time. If you aren't growing, you're going backwards.
Exactly right. Yeah, we don't stay the same. It's either improvement or not. And then with age is age, right?
Yeah.
Life is life. It happens, right? There's a beginning and there's an end to it. So how does that go for you? And beyond the classroom, beyond the office, when you're at home, I think that's really where it's gonna show. It's gonna show your life, the way your home looks, the way your household is, the way your children are. That is all byproduct of your own personal development. And if it's nice and tidy and clean and neat, and your children are doing the right things, it's probably because you're setting a good example and you're taking care of the home. And when you take care of the home, other things will take care of itself.
Yeah.
That's the main thing. But you have to learn this. Sometimes we didn't have parents that knew every answer
Yeah.
to lead us in the right direction. They did the best that they could with what they had, but we got to learn these things. So thankfully for me, a book that I went and I found, which was Think Your Way to Wealth, Napoleon Hill's 17 Principles of Success, which were from Andrew Carnegie. Like, that book changed my life, and
Mm-hmm.
I've talked about them many times. Um, but self-discipline was in there. The habit of learning, cosmic habit force,
Budgeting your time.
budgeting your time, budgeting your money, organized thinking, all these 17 principles that were in there, having a purpose for your life, like all those things related to how do you continue to grow beyond the classroom and learn. And if you're not looking for those answers, you're never going to find them.
Yeah.
And then that's where drifting happens. So, and to me, this is important because I want to share these things with people so they can go and find, the answers to help them grow. Because I can give you all the answers, but if you're not looking for them, whatever I say will go right over your head. One in ear, out the other.
Yep.
And that's the main thing. So you have to be hungry for knowledge, and not just knowledge that you can just have and be useless, but have and apply because you want to have a better life.
Awesome. So what about as far as, in real estate, what are some, kind of learning and growth opportunities you have? I know you have to spend so many years with your real estate license, and then the next level is like becoming a broker, and then is there like an educational component that comes in with that, or how do you feel like that has changed anything?
Well, education is always important because things are always changing. And part of having a license in real estate is you have to continue education every 2 years, right? So that's like the main thing, right?
Yeah.
But then as you're you have a team, and sales is always changing, and yes, you can have sales skills, but you have to continue to improve on your sales skills. You have to keep practicing, understanding your market, understanding the changes in the markets, understanding people's wants and needs, and the economic state, like. Today's market is not like yesterday's market. It's much different, and you have to know how to adjust and adapt. And some people, they let the changes happen to them, and they don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
They're just hearing these things, but they're not actively looking for the trends. They're not actively looking for information that's going to help them, become a better agent, become a better producer. So those are things that you start to recognize when you see, what it is that maybe or don't know. Sometimes you do recognize it. Some people don't, but that's some of the things. And one of the things for me and my team is, you have to keep learning, and we have to keep sharpening the skills.
Yeah.
Like Michael Jordan always practiced the fundamentals. Stephen Curry, all of these guys, fundamentals. No matter how good you get, you have to practice the fundamentals, because that's what keeps you on top of your game. Until you stop, then that's when you're out, right?
Totally. And, real estate's it's a dynamic industry. It's always changing. There's always something new. So, again, it's that complacency. We can't just be stagnant, and we've got to, be actively looking for what's next. And so we do, like you said, we encourage our agents to kind of prioritize learning, prioritize self-improvement. That's a big part of our culture at Level Up. We talk about, podcasts that we're listening to, books that we recommend and reading. I know you mentioned one book already. Are there any other books? A couple off the top of my head that you mentioned to our agents and to our team. Maybe something you can share with the audience.
Yeah, no. I'm always like looking for the next audiobook, and I'm big on audio learning. And lately, I don't know if y'all like biographies of people. I like to learn what successful people do. So I just finished Elon Musk book on just his biography and how he got to where he's at, just learning, understanding his mindset. But again, there was another book that I had read or that I'm on right now. It's called The Lean Startup, and just understanding how these businesses get going. And for me, I'm thinking about things that I need to learn for myself, so that way I can keep growing. But there's another book called Traction, which is really good. And then there's what is it, the 4 Disciplines of Execution, which is another good book.
40X.
Yeah, that I really like. So I encourage people to really find out what your weaknesses are, where are you at, and what's the one thing that you can change today that would make you a better performer, right? And then go and find that information. Go find the book that resonates with you. And when you find it, listen to it 3, 4, 5 times. If you're not a reader, if you're an audio listener, I do the audiobooks because I don't have time to sit down and just read. I'm always getting interrupted, whether I'm at home with my kids,
Yeah.
or I'm in the office, or my only time to myself is in my car.
Me too.
So when I'm in my car, put my audiobook on and I'm just pressing play. And, you know, I think of it like listening to music, and, you know, you find your favorite song, like you find your favorite book. This is good. And then you just put it on repeat, and, you know, go through it once, go through it twice. And then when you hear these things, you have these aha moments, and you go back to it. And this is what being a student is. You're studying. You go back to it. You're like, what was that thing that it said? And then you write it down. And then you try to remember. And then you go and the goal is to apply it, right? So, you know, understanding, you know, yourself and how you learn is important. And, you know, there's some people that don't have kids and have freedom to sit down and read. Do it. Like, any way you can exercise your brain is going to help you continue your personal development, professional development, to give you the skills that you need so you can succeed. And to me, you know, like, success it's not all about money, you know. It's about adding value to yourself as the person that you are and the environment that you're in and the people that you're around. Be a person of value, right? When you're a high person of value, you're bringing light to the environment. When you walk in, your energy is felt, and people are like, man, I like being around this person.
Yeah.
You know, you have that personal magnetism versus that person like, oh man, here comes that person again.
So-and-so's here.
Oh man, they're gonna start.
I know. Yeah, and we really make it a point that we bring on people to our team that embody that and that respect that, because we want to work with high performers. And we know if you have these qualities, if you value education, if you value personal growth, your performance will also reflect that. So,
Exactly.
you know, and we are always looking to hire new agents.
Right on.
Little plug. So if you feel like this culture is something that you could thrive in, like, reach out to me, Tracy at leveluprealty.biz. Let's talk.
Right on. Yeah. You know, for me, you don't have to be a high performer out the gate, but if you have the qualities and, you know, you have drive and will, you know, like, I can work with you,
Yeah.
you know, and you're coachable. Like, man, that's everything. A good attitude, a good moral compass, you know, somebody that I can trust. Like, that's important, you know, because, you know, it's easy to get caught up in being self-centered and thinking it's all about yourself and not caring about the people around you. And you know, that right there it's not beneficial for everybody, you know, or anybody. But when you're that opposite person, when you're like, hey, look, I'm here to bring my value and help this place be better, and I want to use all my talents to do that. And you're in a space or business that you like being in, and that you know that you would excel in, and you find your purpose in it, then man, like, the doors opens wide open. The door it becomes wide open, and then now, you know, you can, anything can happen, because, you know, in this type of space, you know, there's no limits.
Well, and it encourages those win-win outcomes, right? And you know, that's one of our core values, is we're always looking for that win-win. And so when you can bring your value to the table, and we can also, you know, meet you there where you're at, and add value in the places where you need that support, mentorship, guidance, training, then that's just a recipe for success. So I know we're almost out of time, but what about mentorship? I know that's another form of learning, another form of education, is finding someone who's, you know, they don't even have to be all the way ahead of you. They just have to be a few steps ahead of you. You know, what anything that you want to share on having a mentor or mentorship? Yeah,
you know, I think a lot of times people like look for somebody to say, hey, I'll mentor you. And mentorship comes in different forms, you know. Typically a good mentor is going to be somebody that recognizes your effort, and, you know, they become somebody of value that you see, and you learn to respect, and start to build a relationship with that person. And if you're looking for guidance, ask for guidance.
Yeah.
Like, don't expect somebody, you don't say, hey, will you be my mentor? And then, you know, you're not doing things or whatever. You're not taking the advice seriously. No, like, you know, talk to somebody that you respect and ask them for advice. They give you advice, go apply it. Come back to that person and say, hey, I took that advice you gave me. Here was my outcome. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Here's something else that I'm dealing with. Maybe you can help me with this. And boom, they give you more advice. And then mentorship just kind of takes its own form, you know. And and I feel, in my own regard where, I've mentored people and as a teammate, like, hey, I'm always going to share what I know. I'm always going to share things that I've learned to help you become better. And but I'll also look for, mentorship from other people. Like, hey, if I have questions or I need guidance, I'm just asking, and they give me what they know,
Yeah.
and they share it, and that's where it becomes kind of like people will appreciate, the fact that you took something that they gave you, some information that they gave you, and you applied it. So, I think that when you find somebody that has mentor capabilities for you, then talk to that person and ask them for some guidance, and just start there. It doesn't have, it's not a full on commitment. Like there's coaches for that, right? Mentors are mentors, coaches, you pay for it.
Yeah. And there are good coaches. There's bad coaches and there's good coaches out there.
Right.
And really, a lot of times it is an investment, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you, if you're really serious about your growth, you're really serious about learning, don't be afraid to invest in yourself, because that's going to 10x, and it's going to, if you're getting the right value, it's going to multiply in your life, and it's going to be worth, it's going to be worth it. So don't be afraid to, find a coach that fits you
Yeah.
as well.
Well,
We've both had coaches.
Yeah.
I'm actually a coach too, and I think there's just so much value in having someone to just hold space for you, especially when you're trying to overcome certain things, and they're dedicated to helping you succeed. So
Absolutely, and you said it. It is an investment, and anything you pay for, you're going to hold a higher value to, versus something that you're getting for free. A lot of times, people get free information and they don't value it.
Yeah.
But you find somebody that they have the skills, they have the knowledge, and you have to invest in it. Then hey, pay the price, and you're going to get what you need. But you're more likely to apply it versus somebody just giving you advice and
yeah, like a free newsletter that you signed up for that you never open or something.
Exactly.
Good. Okay, I think it's almost time to wrap up. Is there maybe one last thing you want to share with the audience? Maybe an action that they could possibly do, or something that can leave them with some value.
Yeah, I think if you're looking for education, it just depends on where you're at in life. I think you're just gonna have to figure out, hey, is college the best way, or do I need to reach out to somebody, and do I need some guidance and to help me figure out what's the best path for me. And if anybody's looking to connect with me, you can always find me on Instagram, CarlosG210, or you can email me, carlos@leveluprealty.biz. And I can shed my insights, and if hey, if it has a positive impact, great. And that's all I really want to do for people. So again, figure out where you're at and what you need, and that's going to help you find the right path to what you need to be on.
Cool. And I also want to encourage you, if there's one thing that you could do today after listening to this, if there's just that one next step that you can take, take this as your sign to take it, right? Don't wait. If there's something that has been on your to-do list, right now is a great time to just, especially if it takes less than 2 minutes, a phone call, an email, maybe you're looking up a program, or you signed up for a program and you just need to take that next step. Maybe take this as your sign to do it. Education isn't just about formal degrees. It's about being curious. It's about staying curious. It's about being hungry. It's about striving for more, striving for excellence, and that's what separates a good life for a great life. Right. And I'm 100% in support of education in all forms. I encourage you guys to also continue to learn. Be learners, and look to see how that can impact who you are and how you grow in life and in work.
Amen to that. Love it. Well, that's a wrap. Thank you all for joining us. We'll catch you on the next one.